All right, man. Green light means go. Cool. It's good to get you on here, Alec. Rob here with the Fighter's Story. And we've been trying to get this going for a few weeks now. It seems like with
Yeah,
scheduling on my end and your end, it was just a pain in the dick, but we finally got it.
we got it
Um,
here.
so if some of my listeners don't know who you are, this is Alec Robinson. You want to kind of give us a little brief intro as to who you are, what you do, and kind of go from there to start shooting from the hip.
Yeah. My name is Alec. I'm 28. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Just relocated down to St. Petersburg, Florida, a little over 6 months ago. Along with my business partner, I help run a clothing brand called Iron Inning Fitness. It's a tattoo inspired streetwear brand, and yeah, lived in Minnesota my whole life. Was out in California when I was in the Marine Corps, and then went back home in uh, after that. And then, I mean, you're from Michigan, so you get it. The cold weather takes a toll on you. So
Yeah.
finally decided to take the plunge, and now here in the Gulf Coast of Florida, and it's like 75 degrees every single day, and I definitely cannot complain about that whatsoever. But the reasoning behind me being on here is I have a long history of dealing with anxiety, depression, and then it got into some serious substance abuse issues. Um, I have almost 5.5 years from alcohol and narcotics, and then something that we can get into is, yeah, I mean, I I've dealt with anxiety and depression my whole life, and I always, when I talk about, you know, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, I always say no one wakes up in the morning and says, "Hey, I want to be I want to be an addict," or, I want to live a life filled with anxiety and depression. It's kind of the cards we're dealt, and we deal with them how we deal with them for a long time. I dealt with them in a very, very poor way, and that was using alcohol and narcotics. And so, I mean, I grew up playing hockey, so overall I was a high level hockey player, but I mean, anyone from, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan kind of knows, how that game goes. It's yeah, you're an athlete, but you're also kind of a party animal. It just kind of comes with the culture. That's just how it goes. And
Oh yeah.
and I started, you
Hockey's
know,
the worst too, by the way.
it is.
It seems
Oh,
like, yeah, I played hockey as well, and
yeah.
you get, yeah, you earn the reputation though, so it's not like the
Oh,
reputation's thrown out there for nowhere, but yeah,
it,
it's earned.
it's it's funny. There's, you might get one, two, three, I guess, you know, goody two shoes on a team, but for the most part, it's pretty standard. Yeah, it's just funny looking back playing high school hockey. Yeah, it would be games on Thursdays and Saturdays, and getting hammered on Fridays, and then hammered right after games on Saturday nights.
Yep.
It's just, but it's funny, when you're 15, 16, 17 years old. I mean, it doesn't slow you down in the slightest bit. You wake up in the morning and you're good to go. Obviously, the older you get, the more challenging it becomes doing that stuff. But yeah, I started drinking at a young age, and I think I realized real fast. I'm like, oh, I'm way too good at this. Like, this is a problem. As the years go on, I found out that alcoholism and drug abuse is so incredibly prevalent in both sides of my family. And yeah, I anxiety came quick for me. It was actually, a flip switch in my head first day of sixth grade, and been dealing with it ever since. But anyone knows anything about anxiety, usually you don't get just one, usually you get both. So with anxiety comes depression. That came a little bit later on in my life, but it hit me hard. It hit me really, really hard. And I actually ended up in an inpatient psychiatric hospital twice, throughout high school, my junior and my senior year, from trying to commit suicide. So went down a deep, deep dark hole at a very, very young age. So it's something that I've just been having to deal with my whole life. And it's scary when you're that young because you don't exactly know what's going on. You're like, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And even then, even though it wasn't that long ago, there wasn't even really a whole lot of education or understanding on it. It was kind of, it's even to this day, I mean, mental health is so unbelievably stigmatized. Crazy
Yeah.
how it's just not, it's not something that is talked about. So it blows my mind because it's so incredibly common. It's like everyone you meet has some form of it. Obviously there's some people out there who are lucky and they just don't have those chemical imbalances in their head, but a lot of people do, especially with all the shit going on nowadays. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I began my battle with all that at a very young age, and me being me, I thought it would be smart, hey, I'll just go into the military. Military is very common in my family, grandfather, father, uncle. I mean, I'm a third generation Marine, so I thought that'd be good, and it was for a while. It's because once you get in when you're new, it's just you're so busy, and it's such a culture shock that you can't even really, you don't even have time to think for yourself. So it was kind of weird. My first year or so, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm good. And then as you pick up rank, you get more freedom and everything like that. You get more, and it just kind of, everything just kind of imploded back in on me. And again, I joined another culture where drinking is incredibly common. And so it was just one of those things where and I'm not talking, I'm talking every day. Like even you're having beers with your butt every single day. It's not a weekend warrior type thing, or like in college where it's like a Thursday or through Saturday. I mean, I didn't go to college, so I don't exactly know how that goes, but it's an everyday thing. It's your fridge is stocked up every single day. And so I got deep into that. Started to become issues for me again, and then when I got out, I got into a relationship right after, or essentially towards the tail end of my enlistment. And we started dating when we got in, or when I got out. And yeah, that ended up disastrous. Don't want to drag her too much through the mud, but just ended up getting into a relationship with someone who had borderline personality disorder, and she absolutely mind fucked me, I'll tell you that. And so that just put me into a downward spiral of drinking again, and that went on for years after that. And DUI, fights, all that just was going nowhere fast, very, very fast. And when you're in it, you're deep, and there's no end in sight. And I mean, I don't know if I can speak for you, but it's weird. I've kind of thought about it a lot over the years, but when you're drinking, I almost feel like when I was drinking is the most present I've ever been in my life, where
Really?
it's just that moment. And so I guess there is that good aspect of it where you're like, holy shit, I'm living in the moment due to, alcohol. But it's like, it's weird how much it makes you feel present in your life. And it's such a weird concept to grasp, where you're doing something that's negative, but at the same time, it's the only time you're ever actually living in that moment. And I haven't had that ever since. I mean, with work to personal stuff and everything, you're always looking so far down the line and everything. And it's such a hard thing to do to try and stay present. But I just was actually thinking about that the other day after I'm in therapy again, and was talking with my therapist, and he asked me, what do you think was something that, you know, drew you into drinking and why you continued to do so? And I was like, well, to suppress a lot of shit, but also it didn't, it made you not think about the next day.
Yeah.
It kept you in a moment, even though the moment might not be good. You're in a moment, and that's hard to do when you're sober, is to not let your mind wander.
Yeah.
To truly stay present. It's one of my biggest issues I have to this day, is trying to stay present and not focus too much on tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. And then, so I mean, fast forward, I had my last huge oops, where I ended up getting physical with my mother and my father, and that was the light bulb in my head that was like, yo, you got to do something or else you're going to lose everything.
Right.
And because that was the case. I mean, I've put my family through hell. I mean, I've done.
How old were you at this point?
I was 23.
Okay.
So I was 23, and I'd put my family through hell for over a decade. And absolute hell. I mean, the laundry list, like, we could be here for 3 hours, me, you know, telling you all the shit I did to my family.
Just run through a 4-step real quick and just knock it all out.
Oh yeah. And so I told myself, I was like, hey, all right, this is it. I remember it was the day after. I didn't even know what I did the night or the day prior.
Mm-hmm.
Found out from them the next morning, and I left. And I was sitting I remember this like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the gym parking lot in my vehicle, and I sent out a group text to my family, and I was like, hey, I'm never going to drink again. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll see how long that lasts. And I didn't. I quit.
Really?
Yep. I have not had a drop of alcohol since July 2nd, 2016. And so, yeah, got sober at 23. I'm 28 now.
Good for you, man.
But
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, in all honesty, so I didn't go to AA. I was like, I don't need help. I can do this. And I did it. And I've been doing it. But I wasn't doing anything to benefit myself by any means.
Right.
And so it was a little over a year ago. I was listening to a podcast, and I have chronic pain. I have no cartilage in my knees. My body is beat to shit. My back is fucked up. My left shoulder. It's just from my time in the military, it takes such a toll on your body. And so I have pain all the time. And I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about this product. They're like, it's this natural product. It's great for anxiety. It gives you energy. It's good for yeah. And I was like, holy shit, what? I was like, this is amazing. And it's a product, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Kratom.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was pretty familiar with it as you started listing off like the side effects for it and everything.
Yeah. So they're like, yep, it's this natural, it's been around for thousands of years. And I was like, holy shit, okay. And then you think like weed, natural plant. I don't smoke weed because I wouldn't, regardless of my sobriety anyways. But I'm allergic to THC, so I couldn't even smoke weed if I wanted to. But I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I stopped at I use an electronic cigarette. Only vice I have is my nicotine. That's it. I gave up chewing as well to two some years ago. So I'm just a quitter in general. I'm good at quitting shit.
So wait, what happens if you ingest THC? You said you were
Uh,
allergic
I
to it.
get I get really really bad hives, really really bad hives. Um, and come to find out, it was funny. Speaking that, I was having a conversation a few years ago with my dad, and we were talking. He's my dad has always been a very straight laced person, and we were talking about weed, and I was like, yeah, I smoked weed when I haven't smoked weed since I was like 14 years old because that happened and it terrified me. And I goes, yeah, I had this super bad reaction when I smoked weed, and he goes, oh, well, I'm allergic to THC, and I was like, great. You couldn't have given me a heads up that if I was gonna do it, I might fucking die. Thanks, appreciate it. Um, so yeah, I thought in my mind, I was like, medical marijuana. I know so many people that get so many great benefits from smoking weed and everything. So I didn't even think about it. And I had to go to a smoke shop. So I stopped there and I saw they had it there. And I just started asking the guy questions about it. He's like, oh yeah, it's great. I use it all the time. And I was like, so I was like, it's all natural. He's like, yep. Like we didn't really dive a whole lot into it, but it was like they had them in pill form. And I was like, so what do I do? Is it just like take 1-2 pills? You're good. He's like, yeah, you can take up to 4. He's like, yeah, if it gets some, have a drink with some acidity, it'll kick in faster. And I probably should have known then when he said kick in faster. I was like, oh, this might not. But it's weird. I didn't even fucking bat an eye. I didn't even think about it. And so to give a brief over, I have my tolerance for narcotics is absolutely unbelievable. Like I've had a doctor say, he's like, you're a medical marvel. The fact that you're still alive after the amount of pills you put in your system. So I mean, when I get prescribed narcotics, I think it was 20 to 25 pills they usually prescribe you, and then no refills after that. I'd put 25 pills down in a sitting, like over the night, because
Right.
anyone who's ever used narcotics knows if you have them, you take them. It's not that's just how it goes. So I went home that night and I was watching TV and I took 4 pills and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, this is fucking lame. Well, I'll take some more. And then I took 4 more. I was like, oh, this is bullshit. This stuff doesn't do anything. So then I took 4 more. And then probably like 15 minutes after taking 4 more, I was like, oh, this is a familiar feeling. And that night I put the full bag of 30 down. And I knew that moment that I was fucked. I just know myself so well. I know because I tell everyone I'm pretty vocal about like sobriety and my anxiety and depression. I'm like, my favorite fucking thing in the world is to be drunk or high. I fucking love it. It's the best. It is my favorite thing in the world, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. So I went on a year bender off this stuff. It started smaller, and then just with anything, your tolerance builds. So I was starting to, and then I found some stuff online, some companies and everything. So I was having bags. I think there were like 300-gram bags shipped to me. And I was like, oh, great, this will last me a while. And then, it would take me, 2-3 weeks to go through a 300-gram bag. And then next thing I know, it was 2 weeks and then a week. And then I got down here to Florida and it's everywhere. I'm talking everywhere. Like you drive down the streets and there's Kratom Delta 8 signs everywhere.
Yeah,
And
the
so
Delta 8 stuff is starting to pop up everywhere, bro.
it's
Like,
ridiculous.
out of nowhere.
Yeah. And so I ended up finding a shop that sold it by the kilo. So I was buying it kilo. And I was putting a kilo down every week and a half. And so as my progression went on, it was like I would do it at the end of the day. And then that turned into early in the afternoon, end of the day, and then it turned into morning, afternoon, and then it turned into like every hour and a half I'd redose.
No, were you
And
drinking it, or were you
yeah,
taking like the
yeah,
caps and drinking it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was drinking it, so I would mix it in with it's yeah, it's and I'm good at I still function, but what it did is it made me want to self isolate so much. It was like I had these whispers in my ear, like, hey, you got to go home, you got to go home, and that's your happy spot. So I would, no joke, like my kind of safe haven of a place was I would literally sit on the toilet and watch movies on my phone for hours. I'm
So,
talking.
so I'm laughing not at you, but that's what I did when I
Yeah,
used. So I
yeah.
would actually, so I would snort pills. And
Okay.
so I would use like countertops or whatever, and
Yeah.
I would just sit on the toilet and I would snort like, whatever prescription
Oh,
medications, and
yeah.
then just hang out there on my phone 4 hours until like my
Oh,
leg would fall asleep and like
yep.
painful.
Yep.
And yeah.
So that's the crazy thing about it is I do everything I could to get out of the office as quickly as I could. I'd like work out and like I'd skip my workout because I just wanted to go redose. So I self isolated, and I would like on average almost every single day I would sit in on the toilet in my bathroom from like 4 p.m. to 9, and then I'd eat some food, redose at least 2 more times before I go to bed that night. I'd go to bed at like 3 in the morning every night and wake up at 7 in the morning. And that's what I did. And then it was crazy. I'd say it was, yeah, it was early October. All of a sudden panic and anxiety would kick in. And I hadn't had a panic attack in over a year because all this stuff. So back up a bit. Maybe I didn't even think about it for the first few months of using it. But then for some reason I just started doing a deep dive on it on Google, and I realized what it is.
Mhm.
And it's just a natural opioid. It
Yeah.
it attaches to your opioid receptors the same exact fucking way as opioids do.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh shit, I might as well just be doing opioids right now. And so, but it numbed everything for me, from bad feelings to anxiety, depression. It put me in this like complete self-isolation, tunnel vision state where I wanted nothing to do with anyone. All I wanted to do was be alone, get high, and watch movies and TV on my phone. That's all I wanted to do. And fast forward to around, yeah, early October, I I had this overwhelming panic attack, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I started getting them every single day, and all those negative thoughts started kicking in again, to a point where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this anymore. And I think a lot of the really, really bad negative thoughts were where I was like, I have to quit this. But if I quit, I have to tell people what I've been doing behind everyone's back for over a year. And just that shame and guilt kicked in. And I think that's what started sparking my anxiety, because I knew if I didn't quit, something bad was going to happen. I mean, I was thinking of, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to live like this anymore. I got in the most unbelievable depressive state that I've ever been in. And I was just like, and those suicidal thoughts started coming into my head. I was like, thinking up shit where I was like, well, I live in an apartment complex. I live on the third floor. That's not going to do it. I was like, right down the road is an exit ramp with a guardrail in the middle. And I was like, if I hit that going fast enough, that would do it. And I just started thinking about all this shit over again. And it was a Saturday, and it was the first thing I would take my first dose in the morning. It was immediately after waking up. And I took my I took my first dose of the day, sat down on the toilet, and just had this unbelievable panic attack. And I was like, if I don't do this now, that's something bad is going to happen very soon. So I was like, I have to tell my parents. I fucking have to. And it was the scariest fucking thing in the world, because I knew my parent. In all honesty, I was in such a frantic, horrible state where I didn't exactly know how my parents were going to react. If they'd be, because I have the most unbelievable, supportive, just most amazing parents in the world, who have been so supportive of me throughout everything in my whole life. But I was so fucked up in my head that I didn't know if they were going to take it well. But finally, I somehow gathered enough courage, and I FaceTimed them, fucking utter breakdown, and told them everything that I'd been doing. And they took it well. And we started, they're like, they didn't know anything about this stuff. My family's in both my parents are in the medical field, and they're like, we have no fucking idea what this shit is. So it was kind of like they're getting this thing out of left field, and I do explain it to them, and they like looked it up and everything, and they're like, holy shit. So I was seeing someone at the time, and I also called her and told her everything that was happening. And I was like, I got to go to the ER. And I get all my health care taken care of at a VA hospital that's about 30 minutes from me. And I was like, I got to go to the ER. I don't know what the process is. I don't know if it's going to be the same as like detoxing off opioids. I know the withdrawals are going to be crazy and everything. And so she came over, and we drove to the ER at the VA. And the fucking craziest part of it is the VA promotes kratom use. They promote it. And they promote it for people who are coming off opioids and heroin and everything, but it's something that is actually like thumbs up. Like, yeah, it's not as bad as opioids. So if you're gonna do something, do this stuff. It's crazy.
I know there's
And
a big like line on where people like kind of fall on whether you like it or not. Like here in Michigan, you can get it, but it's at like smoke shops or like liquor shops,
yeah,
like, but it's not going to be in like the good side of town. You
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
go to like the fun side of town.
yeah,
um and that's where it is, and it's sold openly, obviously,
yep.
but there's so many people that are like, it's good for you, it's an alternative to this, exactly like you're saying. And yeah, I don't know, I've had friends that have taken it that love it and use the stuff to this day. And then I've
Yep.
also had friends that take it and say that they're basically using dope. So they just start using dope again.
Yep. Yeah, it's really it's one or the other. It's yeah, it's either it help. I mean, people take it, and I mean, I'm the type of person where I can't put anything in my body that makes me feel good, because if I do that, then it's a slippery fucking slope for me. So yeah, I went to the ER. They knew about it and everything. I mean, it's quite a huge issue down here in Florida. And so they're like, well, unfortunately, there's really not a whole lot we can do for you. You just got to go through the withdrawals. You got to detox. And so they gave me some like anti-diarrheal stuff and anxiety, like some sort of anti-anxiety medication, and then an anti-nausea. And they're like, you just gotta have it, fucking clear your system. And so because I was using such heavy doses, my withdrawals kicked in fast. So I went to bed at night, not because it's weird. I never withdrew off narcotics because I would always just start drinking when I'd start feeling like shit. So I never had like really got through withdrawal. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I was like, oh, it won't be bad. I woke up in the middle of the night and it was just all downhill from there. I was puking my guts out, couldn't fall asleep. And so my withdrawals, it was utterly miserable for probably a solid 10 days. I went from 215 pounds down to 190 pounds in like 10 days. Because I physically could not eat food. I couldn't. I was puking nonstop, everything. But it's crazy. I think I was on day 3 of my, so it was a Wednesday. So or day 4. And I just started like Googling kratom withdrawals and shit. And I found a subreddit on it. And I've never gone on Reddit or anything. I'm not too familiar with it. So I was just reading so there was a subreddit called Quitting Kratom. It has like 30,000 people in it. It's fucking crazy. And I was like reading all these posts and everything. And I just like had a breakdown because I was like, holy shit, there are so many people out there that are dealing with the same exact thing that I am right now. And I posted something because they had like a daily check-in where it's like, here post your recovery, where you're at in your recovery for the day. And I posted on there, and then I got a message from someone shortly after, and they're like, hey, saw you posted in the subreddit, we have we have bi-weekly Zoom meetings, a Quitting Kratom Zoom meeting. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And like I said, I'd never gone to AA or any, I'd never been to a meeting in my life. I was kind of like, I don't know. But I was like, I mean, fuck it. I'm miserable as shit right now. I'll give it a go. So I joined the meeting, and so the meetings are Wednesdays and Sundays, and on Wednesday they have someone share for the first 30 minutes of the meeting, they have someone share their story, like what their story is with kratom.
Right.
And I'm sitting here listening to this person tell their story about their experience with kratom, and I just fucking had a meltdown because I was like, the person speaking right now is exactly like my experience. And they urge everyone, especially the newcomers, to like share, like even if it's like, hey, say your name, what day you're on, just share something. And I've been I've never had issues like sharing my story about something. And I was like, fuck it, I'll share. And I shared, and because I was on like day 3 or 4, and I just got this overwhelming response from everyone in the group. And then I got a message sidebar from one of the guys. He's like, hey, it's crazy. Listening to you talk is like listening or watching myself in the mirror. He's like, I've been in recovery for over 20 years. You remind me a lot about myself. Here's my number if you want to talk. And so I started reaching out to him. He's, a guy in his mid 40s. And I think that next day we sat and talked on the phone for like an hour and a half. And he kind of walked me through what to possibly expect and everything. And he's like, kind of told me about his recovery process. And I told him, I'd never been a part of anything like this. I don't know how it works. And since then, I mean, yesterday was 2 months clean off kratom. And in the past 2 months, I've put more effort into these past 2 months into my own recovery than I had all 5.5 years of my sober years.
Yeah.
I never
Congratulations, man. That's big.
think. And so I go to these meetings twice a week. I see a therapist on Zoom every Monday, and I check in with that guy every single day. I write down my daily thoughts and I send them to him at the end of the night.
So he's your sponsor.
He's like my sponsor essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so what I was told, and it's crazy. It's pretty common with everyone. After you get about like your first 2 weeks off kratom, you get this thing, they call it like the pink cloud.
Oh yeah.
Like you're just like on fucking cloud nine.
Yep.
You're living the dream. And that hit me hard, and I was like, holy shit, I feel amazing. I got this new spark for life and everything.
You start
and
seeing the sun again and smelling shit again, and
yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, is this what my life's gonna be like? And then about two weeks into that, I crashed hard. And that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. It's weird, is I haven't felt great for a while. And it's something that's frustrating, because it's like, what else do I gotta fucking do? For the first time, I'm putting all this effort into it. I'm clean. I'm doing my thing, and I still feel like fucking shit. And but at the same time, I'm not upset about it, because for the first time in my life, even all those 5 years of being sober from alcohol, I'm feeling stuff. Like I feel sadness, and I haven't allowed myself to feel sadness ever. I would just mask it with something else. So even though I was sober from alcohol and everything, I would, if I'd start to feel the slightest bit of uncomfort, I traded it with working out, with work, with like, I went through like, just a rant, like a sex addiction, where I was just having just so many partners and everything, where I wouldn't allow myself to feel what a normal fucking person is supposed to feel. Because anytime my whole life, when I felt the slightest bit of discomfort, I would use something just to smash that shit down. Because I was like, no, I don't want to feel this. So even though I was sober, I wasn't allowing myself and seeing like, holy shit, Alec, you have all this discomfort. You're not feeling well. Your mental state's not at the greatest point right now. You can either do something about it, or you just, add something to the fucking fire. And I've just been piling on the fire my whole life until now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was that, when I decided to get sober from this kratom shit, where something in my head was like, all right, it's now or never. And that's everything.
Yeah.
You're either going to put the effort into trying to better and find yourself, or sooner or later, you're just going to find another kratom, or you're going to go back to kratom, or you're going to go back to alcohol. And something inside me told me this is the time. And now this is my time. So yeah, I don't feel the greatest right now, but I know that it's only up from here.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Well, I know. Yeah. So I know, like, so from my experience, I know like exactly what you mean by like that pink cloud and everything. Like, I did the rehab thing. Like my first year, maybe probably 2 years of like sobriety, I was like pretty religious on like what meetings I went to.
Yeah.
Like did the transitional housing thing, did all that stuff. So like the pink cloud, like I get all that. I think like I'm in a really, really weird spot in my recovery right now too. Like I don't really go to meetings.
Yep.
I kind of just like fell off, honestly. Like I got arrogant and said fuck it.
As
um
we all do.
yeah, like I'll pop in every now and then, but I've noticed like in that spot you're talking about, like that funk, the only thing that's ever gotten me out of it is oddly to help out other people,
What I
like
was 100%
it's
one.
the strangest thing ever, but like literally having like the worst day ever, the best thing to fix it is like to when your phone rings and somebody needs help, to go actually help them. Like it's weird, but it 100% it always helps out.
I couldn't. I literally could not agree more. And like today, I haven't been feeling great, and then now like sitting here having this conversation with you is by far the best I've felt all day. Is
Oh yeah.
because is there's something special about having conversations with addicts.
Yeah, well,
Because
to be honest.
what I've come to find out is, for me, I don't have anyone else in my life um that is an addict. Um they're not recovering alcoholics. Like my whole immediate family, none of them have issues with addiction. My friends don't have issues with addiction. So they can all be under they can all be sympathetic, but they'll never understand.
Yeah.
They will never understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, like why I'm having, stringing days together where, I'm not feeling well,
Yeah.
why I'm having a hard time, because they don't have those thoughts in their heads, where we live in a world now where I think I did a video and I put it on my Instagram not too long ago, where I said something clicked in my mind where I was like, I have to be sober for the rest of my life. And I've known that. I'm like, I have to be sober, but something sat with me where I'm like, Alec, you have to be sober. And you have this carrot just dangling in front of your face all day, every day. Wherever you go to a grocery store, there's alcohol there. You go, you drive by, you know, 18 shops on the way to work that say fucking kratom with big neon signs that are, it just constantly, all day, every day, you have to tell yourself no. And it's fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting, and it makes you sad, and it makes you angry that you can't just go out with everyone else and have a few drinks and call it a night. You can't do shit like that. You can't sit on your couch and smoke a bowl and fucking giggle at a movie. You can't do that. And it makes me sad, and it makes me angry that I have to live like this, but it's what I got to do. And only addicts get that. When I say that to someone who doesn't deal with addiction issues, it doesn't compute, because that they don't have that thing in their head where they're like, oh yeah, I can have 2 drinks and call it a day. It's like, no, I can't have any drinks, because if I have one, that means I'm going to be blacked out at the end of the night, because I don't have the self-control to not stop. People who don't or haven't dealt with those issues, they don't understand that. And the only people who do are other addicts. And so
Yeah.
there's such a powerful comfort being able to have conversations with people who truly fucking understand you. And what the wildest thing is most of the time they're fucking strangers. Like me and you don't know each other at
Oh
all.
yeah. No,
We
not
don't
a
know
bit.
we don't know shit about each other.
Nothing.
But we can sit here and have a conversation, and I can fucking to my core understand how you feel.
I
And
think
that
a
doesn't with
Yeah,
other people.
I think a big part of that is like when you've been to the bottom, like you dug the hole and you've been down there and
Yeah.
you've been to the dark spot, and then like you've gotten out, you're okay, like telling people, like, hey, life's not that bad, like
Yeah.
you're okay, like being humble. life has already humbled you, you know. So
Yeah.
like it's there's this vulnerability that we kind of hold of like our faults, you know, of like we kind of like hold everything bad that we've done and put it in like this treasure chest and like nobody
Yeah.
needs to know about it. But
Yeah.
like the fucked up thing is like as soon as you start talking about some shit that you've done and you're in one of those meetings, that as soon as you open up that box, that's the shit that's going to get everybody else to trust you more, to
Oh
want
yeah.
to talk to you more. And those are going to be the conversation pieces that's going to be like, all right, cool, he's been through some shit, you know. And it's like
Yeah.
it
I don't trust people.
normalizes everything. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah,
I don't trust people
I don't
who,
trust anybody.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't trust people who say they don't have problems or they're happy all the time. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind.
yeah, no, I feel like
Yeah.
but I also feel like as addicts, we've done, you know, like it, I guess like just like the level of like shitty is up to your computation,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. But I mean, like everybody has done shitty things, even like Karen, you know. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like, you know, everybody knows who Karen is, you
Yeah.
know. It's just what level, you know. And so like Karen may have like flirted with the mailman one day, to whereas like you and I may have like went off and like cheated on our girl and, you know, like done an 8 ball of coke and drank a fifth on her credit card, you know. And that was
Yeah.
and that was a Tuesday. To whereas
Yeah.
like they're still the same thing. They're still,
Oh
those
yeah.
skeletons are in the closet. It's just ours seem to be so socially wrong that we deem them as like these like unbrandished things. You like can't bring them to the light, whereas Karen
Yeah.
still feels the same exact way. It's just there's that such a gap in communication between the two that there's just judgment left.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of the crazy aspect of it is like when being an addict, I don't know if you feel this way, but like when I when you talk about it with someone who doesn't deal with it, it's like you have to prove that you're not a shitty person anymore.
Yeah.
Like you prove to them like this is what I did. I don't do that stuff anymore. So what do I have to say to make you not look at me like I'm fucking absolute garbage?
See, I've
And
talked to some people that have been around for a while, and
yeah,
apparently that feeling goes away.
yeah,
I don't know when, but apparently that goes away. A big thing I'm curious about is, so like we've gotten, you know, like into a lot of like your past and what you've gone through and what you like you're going through.
yeah.
Congrats on the sobriety, by the way. That's fucking
Thank.
dope. And quitting kratom is huge. I myself had to quit Percocet. um Never fucking doing that again. I know kratom is essentially the same shit, so that's big, especially when you can literally just go to a liquor store and
Oh,
pick it up. It's ridiculous. But I'm trying to figure out how you became the CEO of like your company. You're a tour manager for a band. Your Instagram's pretty lit. You have your website, you know, your own podcast. You know, how are you kind of like being able to like run all of these things, and you're not just like half-assing them, you know, like your brand is you have a legitimate clothing company.
yeah, it's
The band that you represent is a legitimate band. You're not just helping out a buddy's garage band for fun, you know,
yeah,
like playing on Pro Tools.
yeah.
um so like how are you kind of going from like that dark side of your life and putting that mask on to go out to create this brand, I guess you'll call it, because I
So
mean you essentially are a brand, you know.
yeah, um, so Jeff is the owner of the brand. I run it with him. He started it back in 2014. I came on board in 2015, and it's kind of crazy. So, well, one, I'll tell you, with all that stuff, it takes a toll on you. It's exhausting. It takes a fucking
Mhm.
toll on you, and it's mentally hard, but you have to always kind of have the big picture in mind of what it is now and what you want it to be. And the growth we've had with like the clothing company has been fucking wild since, you know, the beginning. Jeff started it with like 5 grand in his uh in his bedroom back in 2014. But it's kind of funny. So I met Jeff before I got sober, actually, but we really started communicating when I got sober. So it's funny when you once you give yourself that mental clarity, a lot of things that you never would have seen that were sitting in front of your face the whole time kind of appear to you. And that's one of the beauties of sobriety is you give yourself this mental clarity to see all these opportunities that you never would have seen unless you got sober. So my family, we have a nonprofit, and we were getting ready to do our launch party back in 2015. And I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to like do t-shirt giveaways at the opening party and everything. And I was like, well, hey, let me reach out to this guy. I found out he was local and see if he might be interested in doing like a collaboration with us for this launch party. And I reached out, and he responded and ended up having like a 2-hour meeting with him
Oh, yeah.
at Starbucks in Eden Prairie, Minnesota back in 2015. And it was just too close to the launch date, so it ended up not working out. But I think it might have been like the week later. I was working this fucking shitty job at a nutrition shop, hating my life, having no, because I had just gotten out of the military. I mean, months prior. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. All I knew was one thing, and that was the Marine Corps. That's it. It's kind of like everything you do before that is just erased from your memory. You don't know anything because it's just pounded in your head, this lifestyle. And so I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was 22 years old, no college education. I was essentially starting fresh. And he reached out to me like a week after our meeting, was like, hey, I got a new product coming out. Would you be interested in doing photos for them? And I was like, I had like a half sleeve and or I had like 2 half sleeves, and like I had a little bit of my back down to my chest. And I was like, I'd never done photos for anything before, but I was like, fuck it, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and did photos, and then got along really well. Ended up grabbing some dinner and just kind of talking about the brand and everything. And he like kind of gave me the situation on what was going on with the brand. Him and his buddy were living together in a condo, and he was, had his computer up in the bedroom, and he had a closet with all the inventory in it, and was just running it out of his his condo and everything. And it's funny, with social media and everything, you paint a picture in your head of what something is, and then when you find out what it is, it kind of like blows your mind. So I was like, holy shit, this is awesome that you're doing it here. I thought it was a completely different operation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and him just continued talking, and we're 9 years apart. So he's a lot older than me. So it was the first time that I was like, again, interacting with someone who wasn't just like, I just want to drink and party my face off and shit like that. And so I just started kind of helping him out with the oh, did I lose? Okay. I'd go over to his apartment or to his condo every day and help him like pack orders and stuff like that. And we'd shoot the shit about the brand and the development and everything like that. And then he was like, hey, I'm in a band. We're playing this festival. Would you want to come and meet the guys and hang out and everything? And I was like, sure. And it was more heavy music. And I had no real, knowledge of that type of music. I grew up in Minnesota, and it was all fucking country music and just boring shit.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, not exactly my style, but I'll come check it out. So it was a festival. So their set wasn't until later in the night. So I went and met all the guys, got along with them. It was awesome. And then watched them play their set. And like, I was like, holy shit, this is wild. And helped them load gear, unload gear, and everything. And then the following weekend, they're playing another show, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come help out?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I went and helped out at that show and everything. And they didn't have a tour manager at the time. Jeff's brother was kind of taking that on. Um, and I was like, I really like the behind the scenes stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to do anything that I possibly can to help you guys out." And he started showing me, all the behind the scenes stuff and everything. And then since then, I just did everything on the road for him. So it's funny, same thing with the clothing brand. It's just like you you opportunities will arise, and I was lucky enough to one be sober to actually see them.
Yeah,
and
that's a huge thing.
and so essentially, same thing with with the clothing brand. Yeah, I just stuck it out, and I started personal training. Fucking ended up hating it. I was like, this is not what I expected. And so the clothing brand got to the point where it got too big for him and his buddy's condo. Jeff and his at the time girlfriend moved into their own condo together, so we moved the whole operation there, where we had a full spare bedroom and everything like that. And then I just kept doing it every single day with them, helping them out. And our screen printer was 20 miles up the road from us. Ended up creating a really good relationship with him, and he was like, "Hey, I outgrew my space. I'm looking at getting my own warehouse. Uh, I print all your guys' shit. The majority of the stuff I print is your guys' stuff. Would you guys be interested in going in on a warehouse with him?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah!" So then moved from the bedroom, or the spare bedroom, to a 3,000 square foot warehouse.
Hell
This is
yeah.
all this then, obviously within two some years. And it was still at the point where we weren't paying ourselves all the money from the clothing brand. We just funneled back in to the clothing brand, because a lot of, just a tip for you guys out there starting a business. Even if you see some dollars rolling in, don't put that in your pocket, because put it back in your business and allow your business to grow, and figure out other means to make money to support what you want your business to be. So we're in this warehouse and everything, and I hated personal training. And so I reached out to our screen printer. I was like, "Hey, I'm here at the warehouse every day. Is there any way you would take me on and help me and let me work for you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I definitely need the help," because he then upgraded from just a manual press to an automatic press. So we were screen printing all our stuff in house. And so he took me on, and I learned how to screen print, and I screen printed with him for the next 3 years.
Oh, damn.
And so from 9 in the morning to around 2, depending on the day, 2, 3 o'clock, I was screen printing, and then I'd walk my happy ass over to the office in the same warehouse, and start doing iron and ink stuff until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, however long we were going. And did that for 3 years, up until October of 2020, where finally we're like, all right, it's time. Let's do this. And we've started paying ourselves and been doing iron and ink full time since October 2020. And then and then finally, after everything with COVID and shit, everything that happened in Minneapolis, we were like, we got to get out of here. It's being in Minnesota is no good for our mental state of mind. So we were like, hey, it's time to move. We didn't exactly know where. We ended up landing on Florida, and we relocated the whole business down here to Florida in this past June. So we've been here in Florida since June. Our photographer moved down with us, so he's down here full time. And our videographer, him and his brother run their company together. They still live in Minnesota, but we fly them out here to do all our video content and everything. So So yeah, it was a lot of years of fucking, a lot of time, a lot of eating shit to get to the point where you can make what your passion is your reality. And unfortunately, like with the band stuff, it's hard. It's hard for me to, well, they've only played a few shows since like all of COVID and everything. But usually one of well, I usually stay back, so I'm not exactly sure what the future is going to be for the tour manage aspect of it. It's just challenging, so we got to have someone here, holding down the fort and everything. But hopefully, we'll be able to make that work again. But yeah, it's just a lot of fucking hard work, man. Hard work, sacrifice, and just looking to the future enough, but not separating yourself enough from the present that you're living in.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
it's because you can go down a dark path if all you're doing is worrying about the future, not taking care of what you can in this very moment. And that's one thing that my sponsors really kind of really been cramming home to me, is like, he's like, dude, you got to keep it simple. And that's, talk to me every day, don't do fucking drugs, and just worry about today and don't even think about tomorrow. And that, with everything, that's kind of what I'm trying to, I'm on a huge mental personal journey right now. And it's very hard to break essentially a decade cycle of thinking.
Oh
And
yeah, for
that's
sure.
what I'm doing right now, and trying not to beat myself up
Well, I mean,
when
it's also
not.
it's like the personal training thing, you know. It's where like you have somebody coming in that over the course of 10 years they gained 50 pounds, you know, and but yet they want to lose it in, 12 weeks. It seems to be
Exactly.
like the 90
Yeah.
day transformation thing. And so,
Honestly,
the clearly
thank
just want to lose 50 pounds in 90 days. It's not that bad, you should be
honestly,
able to program them that for 'em. But
yeah,
it's not how it works, so it
too.
definitely takes time.
Thank you for saying that, because that I don't that just I hadn't even thought about it that way. And
Yeah.
that yeah, that's yeah, I didn't, I mean, how am I expect to have all these crazy major changes in such a small period of time? It's not
Oh
possible. And I
yeah.
never even thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I remember, like I mean, even recently, like so I started therapy after what happened to me medically, and like I'll talk to my therapist. Like we're doing this trauma therapy to where we're writing a book about everything from the past. And like the other day or today, whatever day it is, it was just like a tangent. Just like going off, and it felt better. At the end.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it feels good just to get some shit off your chest,
Oh yeah.
kind of like just keep moving forward. Hey man, I know you are extremely busy. I'm looking at your Instagram right now, and there's like 400 different companies that it seems like you're working with. And but yeah, if you don't want to get out of here too quick, you want to kind of give the listeners just a quick update on what you guys have coming up. I know Iron and Ink. You guys have. Do you have a launch coming up for the new year set right now, or do you have anything going
So
on?
yeah, so you said this will come out in about a week. At that time, yeah, we have a new tie-dye hoodie that's going to be coming out the 31st.
Okay.
So that's the three-color tie-dye. We're surprisingly, we're like one of two companies that actually does like custom tie-dye. And it's like, it's not your basic swirl bullshit. It's like a marble dye stuff. It's super rad. It's been a big hit for us. And we
Yeah.
just changed colorways and everything like that. So we're gonna have that coming up on the 31st. And then but we're dropping stuff. We're dropping stuff all the time. We usually try not to go more than 2-3 weeks without releasing some new stuff. But yeah, give us a look. I mean, it's funny. People are get hit up a lot being like, yeah, Iron and Ink, I don't really have a lot of tattoos, or I don't work out a whole lot. And I'm like, well, hey, have you ever heard of the brand called Hurley? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, have you ever worn stuff? And they're like, yeah, I have some stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, and they're like, no. And I'm like, then what the fuck's the difference?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, if you like the stuff, you like the stuff. That's all that matters. But yeah, we got that. And then we got a podcast called Iron and Think that comes out on Mondays. Give that a look. Yeah, my Instagram. I mean, yeah, just kind of, if you check, I'm pretty active on my Instagram, so if you just check that out, that kind of gives you an understanding of everything that's going on. And also, yeah, check the band out if you guys like. If you guys like, they've changed their sound. They have a new front man. He's been in the band. He was the bass player. He used to AB vocals, but now he took over, so he's the front man. So a little different sound, a little bit not as super heavy metal. It's more like you could say your classic like rock music. They're called Throw the Fights. And check them out for some gym tunes or just some everyday tunes and whatnot. But yeah, if you
They have a
if you
tour coming up at all or anything?
they're working on some new music right now. So I think there is some stuff in the works. It's a bit more challenging because they all have they're all have kids now.
Yeah.
So tours, only doing tours when they make sense and everything. But there is some stuff in the works for the spring, I believe. So they'll definitely be out on the road and everything. But yeah, so that's about it. And what I say to everyone, if someone dealing with issues like me, please feel free to reach out. I do my best to respond as much as I possibly can to like direct messages. Sometimes they get buried and I don't see them, just because with the numbers comes a lot of messages, so I don't always see all of them right away. But if someone messages me about wanting to talk about some stuff like that, I'll always make the time to respond and everything, because that helps me out just as much as it might help someone else out. So yeah, feel free to reach out whenever you may need it. But yeah, that's about.
All right, cool, man. I appreciate you coming on here and kind of sharing your story, walking us through everything. And I'll put a link down below with like all the band stuff. Obviously the Iron and Ink stuff.
Yeah.
And see if we can't get some Spotify links to put up some of the new stuff from the new front man of the band. Do they have stuff recorded with the new guy up there yet?
Oh yeah. They got a full album and multiple singles since the new guy. So yeah, there's
Oh, so that is him. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've heard that stuff then. Yeah, so
yeah.
All right, dope. All right, sweet, man. I'm gonna go ahead and let you get out of here. And thanks again for coming on, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Have a good one, man.
All right, thanks.
All right, see ya.
Yeah.